Joe Burrow will win the MVP in 2024. After the end of the 2021 NFL season, Joe Burrow was one of the rising elite quarterbacks in the league. Burrow took the league by storm in 2021 by taking the Bengals to the Super Bowl, just to fall short to Matthew Stafford and the Rams that year. Thing is, with a healthy Joe Burrow, look what the Bengals can do. Their roster is so much scarier when you have a healthy Joe Burrow, and that's just the truth. He's a game winner, and he will win you that big game that could factor the rest of the season. You need a guy like him as your quarterback if you want to consistently have success year in and year out. The problem is, he can only stay healthy for so long with what the Bengals give him. If the Bengals continue to fail to protect Joe Burrow, he will continue to deteriorate over time and ultimately lose his ability to win those big games in the end. Will the Bengals finally figure out their mistake? Finally seems like they're realizing, and you'll understand why soon. If you guys enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can always unsubscribe later. Thank you for all the support recently. The Cincinatti Bengals are hoping to return to Super Bowl form after their impressive offseason, bolstering up their offensive line for quarterback Joe Burrow. For Burrow, it's been a tough time trying to stay healthy for this Bengals franchise, and it's not all his fault. Time and time again, the Bengals front office has failed to provide Joe Burrow with the proper protection from an offensive line. In 2020, PFF ranked the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line 30th in the league. In 2021, 20th in the league. In 2022, they jumped up to 8th, surprising a lot of analysts, as they called this one of the most improved lines in the league. This didn't last long though, as in 2023, they fell back down to near the bottom at 26. Constantly, the Bengals offensive line has struggled both in pass protection and run blocking, as they were near the bottom 3 out of the 4 years Joe Burrow has been the starter for this team. The Bengals felt it was best to invest elsewhere on the roster, which is why Joe Burrow is constantly getting injured. This was a bad move from the front office. You have a superstar quarterback. Why risk injuring him? If he's done, how are you going to go any further? You aren't going to win with a backup quarterback, and that's just the truth. The Bengals need Joe Burrow, and it's been proven multiple times. Out of 66 games in his 4-year career, Burrow has managed to start 52 of them. Burrow has missed 14 games in 4 years, which is around 3.5 games a season. Those games could be the most important ones of the season, and it's just something you can't have, especially from one of your most electrifying players on the roster. Signing Trent Brown to a 1-year contract in free agency graciously helps Burrow. Brown has been around for a long time in the league. Having an experienced veteran locking down your blind side will make Joe Burrow more comfortable in the pocket. They also brought in Orlando Brown Jr. last year, who I think will have a greater impact on the offensive line. Getting better players also boosts your core players' morale and only helps them get better over time as well. Look at any NFL roster. When the position is starting to click, everything is clicking. Everything has to be synchronized. It's all a rhythm. If these guys start working together and play with their hearts, you have 2 tackles that could very well be top 10 in the league this upcoming year. We tend to forget Orlando Brown was a Pro Bowl 4 consecutive years before 2023. He's a great tackle to have on your roster. Last year, he posted a 66.4 PFF grade, only allowing 7 sacks. But you look at a guy like Trent Brown, who had an 80.4 PFF grade, and he only allowed 3 sacks the entire year. That's the type of players you want protecting your quarterback for the future. You have to think Burrow is a little paranoid after getting hit all these times with all the injuries he's suffered. Little things like this can affect Burrow in the future, so it's best the Bengals solve this issue now. Now, I'm not saying this will happen to Joe Burrow, but look at Carson Wentz, for example, when he was on the Philadelphia Eagles. All those injuries started to pile up, and he became more and more anxious in the pocket. It's a real thing. It's just something to look out for. Adding protection for Burrow will boost his confidence further and his offensive line's ability to keep him from getting tossed around. The interior of the line is a huge question mark, but I believe if this offense can perform up to standards, these guys can hold up and be a real solid line in the league. They can shock a lot of people around the league. With the additions in the offensive line and the rest of the roster in general, this team is scary on paper. With T. Higgins returning and Jamar Chase still being a part of the Bengals, Joe Burrow has 2 two of the youngest deep threat wide receivers in the league. With that, Joe Burrow will be able to play with confidence, knowing he has chemistry built up with these guys. Chase and Higgins have consistently hit 1,000 yards and have been to Pro Bowls and All-Pros respectively. The Bengals also decided to bring in tight end Mike Gesicki in free agency. Gesicki has 6 years of experience under his belt, and he's actually a pretty good starter when given the chance to shine. Over 6 seasons, he amassed 260 receptions for over 2,861 yards and 20 receiving touchdowns. The Bengals have been missing a solid tight end ever since Tyler Eifert became injury prone and fell off the face of the league. Gesicki will provide reliable hands and an overall good teammate to have on the roster. The Bengals decided to move on from Joe Mixon, but I believe it was the right move in the end. He's starting to regress as a running back, and he's only getting older. Running backs are a replaceable position, and I believe the Bengals found their short-term solution in Zach Moss for now. Zach Moss isn't flashy like Mixon was, but he's a serviceable back that will win you football games on the ground when needed. He's not the best, but he's definitely not the worst either. Last season, he managed to get 800 yards on the ground off 183 carries. He also added 5 touchdown scores as well in the 2023 campaign. Joe Burrow has put up over 30 touchdown passes in 2021 and 2022, both of which was seasons he started 16 games in. In 2020 and 2023, he played a lot less games, and for that reason, his stats were not up to his standards. In 2023, you could see his rust coming back from not signing his contract. He managed to throw 2 touchdown passes for 2 interceptions and 728 yards passing, which is around 182 yards per game. Burrow tends to average 270 passing yards a game in his entire career, so it was evident enough that he wasn't the same player the first 4 games of the season. He finished the season strong before getting re-injured, which causes some concern for the beginning of the 2024 campaign, but I believe Joe Burrow will be fine as quarterback come week 1, and I believe he will dominate the 2024 NFL season. With all the weapons in his arsenal, Burrow will find a way to take over the 2024 season and win the MVP award. I think this season he strays away from 30 touchdown passes and he puts up 40. I believe Joe Burrow can be the guy that goes up against Mahomes in the championship and beats him again to go back to the Super Bowl. If anybody can do it, Joe Burrow has proven it's him. Allen hasn't been able to overcome him, and it's just a fact. The future is bright for the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow, but the Bengals have to continue to supply him with the protection for the future. If they want him to be around for a long time, we don't need another Andrew Luck situation. Such a generational talent, but had to retire so young at the age of 29 because of injuries from the Colts organization. Time and time again, they refused to pay for quality linemen, and that's what happened in the end. They lost their superstar, and this cannot repeat for the Cincinnati Bengals. Ultimately, I think the Bengals will continue to invest in their offensive line in the end, and Joe Burrow and this Bengals team will be a force to be reckoned with for the next decade. Burrow is only going to get better and better as time moves on, and he's already one of the best. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any suggestions, please leave them below. I'm working on longer form videos with more time and effort into them, so videos might be a little less frequent. I'm gonna try to post once a week. Thank you guys for all the continued support. I'm out. Peace.